Hey everyone, welcome back. I wanted to have a quick chat with you all about why it's important to vet your sources of information. And to help me illustrate why that's important, I'm going to show you guys a clip from the House Armed Services Committee from this week where Representative Matt Gaetz found himself in a little bit of an embarrassing situation.
Is the Azov battalion getting access to U.S. weapons?
Not that I'm aware of, but if you have information,
I seek unanimous consent to enter into the record the Global Times investigative report that talks about training. It's from the Atlantic Council's Digital Forensics Research Lab, citing that the Azov battalion was even getting stuff as far back as 2018.
Without objection, so ordered.
Any reason to disagree with that assessment, Dr.
Is this
Paul?
I'm sorry, is this the Global Times from China?
No, this is,
That's what you read.
yeah, it might be. Yeah, would that be a reason?
As a general matter, I don't take Beijing's
Well,
propaganda.
no,
at
yeah,
face
but just tell me
value.
if the allegation is true or false. I mean,
I don't have any evidence one way or the other. As a general matter, I don't take Beijing's propaganda at face value.
fair enough.
As amusing as it was to watch a MAGA Republican try and introduce a piece of Chinese propaganda into the congressional record in order to attack the U.S. military, I want to put that aside for now and instead use this as a teachable moment to talk about different things that we as average citizens can do in order to vet the media that we're consuming and make sure we're getting our news from reliable sources. So now let's take a step into Matt Gaetz' shoes and see how we could have avoided this embarrassing exchange. Now let's say that we're just sitting there and an article comes across our newsfeed and it says that the US government is supporting neo-Nazi militias in Ukraine. Certainly an eye-catching headline, and I imagine it's something that I would click on because if my government was supporting neo-Nazi militias in Ukraine, that's something I think I should know about. Obviously it's something Matt Gaetz wanted to know about, so we click on the link. We end up on the website of a news organization called the Global Times. Now, I actually was familiar with what the Global Times was before all of this, but I'm sure there are plenty of people who weren't. So, whenever I read an article from a source that I'm not familiar with, the first thing I do is I Google it. Usually the first thing that comes up is the website for the news organization, and the second thing is their Wikipedia page. And I just take a little scroll through that. And, had Matt Gaetz done this, he would have realized, the Global Times is a part of the Chinese state media, and the Trump administration actually designated it a foreign mission in America to illustrate the fact that it was in fact a part of the Chinese government used to spread propaganda. And at that point, he might not have used it. But obviously, not all media organizations are that clear-cut in their bias. And the nice thing is there's a bunch of other websites that you can Google that will give you the bias of different media outlets. And I will actually leave a few of those links to those websites in the description for you all, just so that you guys have ease of access. But, again, taking that 2-3 minutes, just Google a source you're not familiar with and find out where they're coming from, who's funding them, and what their bias is. That can let you judge whether you should trust the information that's inside of that article in the first place. Now, the other thing he could have done was to actually think about what he was reading. Now, I'm not sure exactly which article he was referring to, as the Global Times has produced a couple of different articles trying to link the U.S. to the Azov Battalion, but all we really need to look at is what he said during the hearing, because that gives us more than enough information about what Matt Gaetz took away from the article. And one of the things that he said was that the U.S. had been apparently supporting the Azov Battalion going back to 2018 or earlier. And apparently he's forgotten that in 2018, Donald Trump was the president and Republicans controlled both the Senate and the House of Representatives. In fact, Matt Gaetz was a member of the House of Representatives back then, so when he was reading this, he probably should have said, okay, the U.S. government supporting neo-Nazis back in 2018. Hey, I was in government in 2018. Republicans and Donald Trump controlled everything in 2018. We weren't funding Nazis, were we? I don't think we were. That doesn't sound like something we would do. Maybe I should not trust this source. Obviously, he didn't go through that thought process, but it's certainly something that should have happened. And this applies more broadly to us all. If you ever come across something in the news that doesn't quite sit right, and you're like, all right, that sounds weird, and especially if it's from a source you're not familiar with, the answer is, again, Google it. Because the odds are you're going to find more articles that are discussing the matter. And you can kind of compare and contrast, see, okay, this article said this about the issue, but then there's 8 other articles from a variety of news sources, some of which I know a little bit better, saying that that's not true. Alright, maybe we should just put this article aside and not trust it. And that might, again, lead you to the first point we talked about, where, alright, if they're saying these weird things, what are they? You Google it, you find out it's Chinese propaganda. Alright, we'll put that aside, we won't trust that anymore. And we'll stick to more conventional news sources. And again, it's just one of those things. You really have to take the time to think about what you're reading so that you don't end up blindly repeating Chinese propaganda. Now, I've given Matt Gaetz the benefit of the doubt here and essentially assumed that he made an honest mistake. But should I have? Let's use what we've just discussed and try and figure out whether he is a trustworthy source. Now, if you were to Google Matt Gaetz, you would quickly find out that he is a far-right Republican, member of what we might call the MAGA caucus, and that he is vehemently opposed to the U.S. involvement in Ukraine. We would also find out very quickly that he has a habit of lying in order to support his political arguments, and one of the best examples of this is the fact that Matt Gaetz continues to claim that there was fraud in the 2020 election, despite the fact that there have been many court cases and investigations, and God knows how many other things that have shown that there was no substantive fraud in the 2020 election, and anyone who is claiming that is very well aware of the fact that they're lying. So, based on these two things, which are very easy to Google, we can look at Matt Gaetz and can ask ourselves, did he make an honest mistake and just slip up here, drop the ball, or does he know that this is Chinese propaganda, know that it's not true, and he's still using it anyway to attack the U.S. military? So, at the end of the day, if you come across a news source that you're not familiar with, or you're reading a story and something doesn't quite mesh and you think that it's a little bit off, take 5 minutes and Google it. Most of us literally carry the internet around in our pockets, so there's really no excuse not to. Plus, it comes with the added benefit of being able to say that I am more savvy about my news consumption than Representative Matt Gaetz. Think about it. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more of my content, subscribe to the channel and make sure to hit the bell icon so that you get notified whenever I post new videos. If you want to support me on my other social media platforms, all of the links you need will be in the video description below. If you have any questions about this video or another topic that you'd like me to discuss, leave me a comment and I'll do my best to get you an answer. Thanks again for watching, and have a great day.